At his set during the legendary Glastonbury Festival on June 27, the 1975 frontman Matty Healy caused a stir with remarks that fans think were sly digs at none other than his former flame Taylor Swift. It wasn't an outright name drop, but what he said on stage was sufficient to put Swifties into detective mode. Standing in front of a huge audience, Healy paused and, in a burst of dramatic earnestness, declared, "What this moment is causing me to realize is that I may be the greatest songwriter of my generation." That was just the opening salvo. He followed with, "The greatest. What do we call him? A poet. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what I am. Ring a bell?" That line immediately brought to mind Swift's The Tortured Poets Department, her 2024 album largely rumored to feature the songs about their short but highly publicized romance. But that wasn't the only crumb he left behind. Stick around. What he was wearing may be even more telling. While he took a sip from a pint glass and was about to dive into the next song, he continued, "Just remember, these lyrics, this poetry, I bleed for you." While Taylor's name was never uttered, most interpret his over-the-top wordplay as anything but happenstance. It was a nod to the themes and titles Swift herself had written about in her own music, crafting what listeners perceived as a poetic exchange between ex-lovers. And then another aspect Swifties couldn't overlook, Matty's wardrobe. He was dressed in a pin of Peter Pan, an emblem he has personally claimed as his own for years. Notably, Taylor also alluded to Peter Pan in her track, Peter, which most people think is about Healy. Coincidence? Or was this another layered allusion? But here's where it gets even more interesting. Earlier in October, while appearing on the Doom Scroll podcast, Matty spoke about how fame has influenced the reception of his music. He claimed, "I'd be lying if I made a record about everything that's said about me or some impromptu romantic thing just because I'm famous." Without mentioning Taylor by name, he dissociated himself from using relationships for creative influence, a step fans interpreted as a veiled swipe at Taylor's frequently autobiographical songwriting. He added, "A lot of artists get caught up in their own mythology. They want to address the drama, the headlines, and that's fine. But to me, it's too obvious. I'm just not into it." And yet, his words, his performance, and even his outfit at Glastonbury tell a more complex story. So was this a witty, lyrical flex? A knowing reply to Taylor's record? Or merely another layer in the continuing lore of two quite disparate musical brains? Whatever the reality is, one thing is certain. Matty Healy knows precisely how to have fans talking.